We have a liftoff.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Straight From Me with Bryan Garner podcast. You can reach me on the following social media platforms: Facebook, search Straight From Me; Twitter, @StraightFromMe1; on YouTube, search Straight From Me; and on Instagram, @StraightFromMe. You can listen to me on most of your favorite podcast providers like Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Republic, CastBox, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and Stitchers. On this show, we will take a look at world and national news, and I'll offer my opinion on what's going on out there in the world today. So sit back and let's go. The coronavirus scare is having an impact on pretty much the entire world. It's shut down the whole countries and is wreaking havoc on their economies plus ours. I'm by no means downplaying this virus. Let me tell you why. I was saying on the last podcast that this virus was nothing more than a bad flu. That is no longer my opinion. I was very wrong with that assessment. I've read a lot more and did a lot more research and have come to a different conclusion. Italy has now become the world's leader in deaths from the virus. They recorded another 24 hours of massive deaths. The death toll has risen like crazy to an astonishing number of over 10,000 deaths total. Here in this country, New York, which is the most cases in our nation, with over 53,000 confirmed cases, issued a stay-at-home order along with several other big cities across the nation. Vice President Mike Pence and Mrs. Pence had a staffer that tested positive for the virus, but the VP and his wife both were tested and both came back negative. There have been a total of 5 senators who have tested positive for the virus. Of course, the social distancing rules are in effect. Continuing washing your hands with soap and warm water and use of hand sanitizer. Just a side note, there were no mentions of toilet paper use, since this is not a stomach bug. The stock market had another tough time this week, with major losses and some gains. It finished the week up overall, though, coinciding with President Trump's and Congress that signed a bill into law. It was an aid plan to help provide for people that are having to quarantine at home and with businesses that have shut down. The bill would be sending families money, about $2,900 for a family of 4, expanded paid leave, $500 billion in small business loans, and the hospital industry will be getting $100 billion in funding. This bill also expands unemployment benefits to an extra $600 for 4 months, on top of the state benefits that already are in place. Hopefully this doesn't give Americans the incentive not to go back to work. The airline industry is getting $58 billion to help them get back on their feet, and the telemedicine industry is getting infused with $200 million. All of these things, plus some other items, will hopefully have a stimulating effect on the economy and ease those virus concerns. Congress passed the bill that was labeled to cost us nearly $2 trillion. There are other key details that are in the bill that have no business being there. This bill was supposed to be in place strictly just to support and help get the economy stabilized and rolling again. Last week, the Senate had nearly come to an agreement until Nancy Pelosi came in and demanded a wish list of what amounted to campaign promises. These figures came from Forbes.com, and it's like $25 million to support the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, $75 million from the Senate to support the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which includes NPR. And why does NPR need coronavirus funding? Pelosi's version was going to be $300 million to them. The Senate gave $88 million to the Peace Corps for evacuating volunteers and U.S. Hires from overseas. Pelosi's version would have gave them $90 million. $250 million to the IRS. Pelosi's bill would have gave them $602 million. $400 million in election security grants. Pelosi's bill would have gave them $4 billion. And these are just some of the items that were completely removed that Pelosi wanted. Again, nothing to do with the virus. She wanted $25 billion to bail out the U.S. Post Office, which required federal agencies to use minority banking and expanded bargaining rights for federal employees. Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are claiming victory. Pelosi is saying, because of the Democrats, the working man is better off. No, it is absolutely unacceptable that you would insert your election promises into this bill. You are not the party of the people, but your sheeple will go right along with it. Shame on Senate Republicans for saying, oh, we removed a lot of her, speaking of Pelosi, her fluff. You should have removed it all. This is a coronavirus bill. You should not be able to get a bill passed with all this garbage in it. This is not the time for political gesturing. There needs to be leadership on both sides that can get a complete bill with only coronavirus funding and nothing else. If they don't, then there needs to be wholesale changes on both sides of the aisle. With talk of yet another bill, if you don't think the same thing will happen, then you're foolish. If we would have took the time to be families first, the first time, the ball could have been rolling a week ago. But once again, greed from leadership on both sides got in the way. President Trump has also moved the IRS tax day from April to July 15th. It was announced the president had issued a travel ban to Europe and closed the borders with Mexico for at least 30 days. Many nations around the world have done the same. This is a very unprecedented move by the federal government, especially with the absolutely unheard of amount of money this costs to try and keep other countries' economies from total collapse because of this virus. I'm not a fan of adding $2 trillion more to the national deficit, but if this is what is needed to keep us all going while everything is shut down, then so be it. It was nice to see Republicans and Democrats working together on both sides, but both sides did try and slip things in on the bill, like what happened a week ago when Pelosi tried to get money marked for abortion slipped in. And there have been things that the Republicans have done also. What has to be done is no special interest groups involved on either side. That's the only thing we need is coronavirus legislation. And I'm giving praise to those who are doing things the right way, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, like Democratic governors of New York, Andrew Cuomo, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio. All are deserving praise for the way they've handled their state situation, especially Cuomo. He has had daily briefings and laid it out for his people in New York to understand in a no-nonsense, non-political approach, which is what we need right now. This virus, like I said, is affecting those with a compromised immune system and are older are most likely to be affected. But there is new evidence, however, that has been stated that those dying are mostly men and of the age bracket of 30 to 55, and that this virus may also be affecting their hearts. And there's also been a few more children that also died recently. The CDC is asking all of us to only get tested if we have symptoms right now. There's a strain on the testing supplies still. That should be worked out here very soon. They also ask that they know that you can have the virus without showing symptoms, but want to make sure that those that actually have the symptoms get checked out and quarantined first. Now, even though this virus was born in an open food markets of Wuhan, China, and China did a horrible job at first of quarantining and corralling the virus, which was then able to spread, you apparently cannot say the virus came from China or you will be labeled a racist. Oh no! Which is laughable. Because you can be a racist for anything nowadays. This is what the liberal mainstream media is focused on. Even Adam Schiff is still focused on what he calls racist remarks from President Trump. The remarks in question are Trump, and all the media is calling the Chinese coronavirus, That is, however, a battle for another day, not today. This is not the apocalyptic end of the world virus that some would want you to believe it is. This is, however, a very nasty virus that has killed over what is approaching 31,000 people worldwide and over 2,100 in the U.S. This is not the time for either side to politicize it. In other news about the virus, the WWE announced WrestleMania will go on, but they moved it to their performance center and will be in front of no fans. Also, Disneyland and Disney World have expanded their suspension of operations. A lot of schools around the nation have closed, some for the rest of the year. The beautiful beaches in Alabama and Florida have closed to tourists, just as spring break has started. Now we're going to go into national news, the Democratic primary news to be exact. Since last time we talked, Joe Biden won the state of Michigan, which was won by Bernie Sanders in 2016 over Hillary Clinton. Biden also won the states of Missouri and Mississippi, so now that poses a big problem for Bernie. It's been downhill ever since for him. As of this week, the delegate count has Joe Biden with a commanding lead over Bernie Sanders. With 1,999 delegates needed to win the nomination, Biden has 1,217 delegates, and Bernie has 914. That means that Biden only needs 774 delegates. With all this coronavirus mess going on, Joe Biden has been trying to look presidential. The key word here is trying. He has looked lost on a lot of these online speeches that he's been giving. He has had a lot of teleprompter issues and is just rambling and stumbling through his interviews, losing his train of thoughts all the time. Bernie has kept himself a pretty low profile during this time. He comes out every now and then, says a few things, and gets back undercover. Now that the bill has been signed, there are new arguments from the Democrats of what took so long for the president to go out and act, and also why did it take him so long to enact the Defensive Production Act, which he did take a little bit of time with it, but he had to get everything set up with GM and get. They know these things, and yet they're trying to play with your emotions and derail the president no matter what the cost. Not only that, but Democrats are claiming that they knew about the virus back in January, which is an outright lie, unless they ignored it. They were so far up Adam Schiff's butt trying to impeach the president that they didn't care about anything else. Some of these politicians' motto should be, never let facts get in the way of a good narrative. That's going to wrap it up today. Just remember to go on my social media platforms, look me up, and search me. Thanks for listening to Straight From Me with Bryan Garner. Until next time, y'all have a good one. Bye.